So I understand what people are arguing about how we should make the traditional pathway show good teaching, but one of the things that we really wanted with this framework was to move the state forward in showing students, showing teachers the mathematics that students really need in the 21st century. And to do that, we would outline an exciting, vibrant pathway that would make people interested and would share vignettes and would really help people in moving to that pathway, which I'm sure we all appreciate is the mathematics students should be working on. I worry about making the traditional pathway just as vibrant and interesting and illustrated, because it will give the message that both of these are equally important for kids. So I think that's why we were thinking that we would just repeat the traditional text from the previous framework, but really help teachers with the illustration of the new pathway.
I just keep wondering about this traditional pathway. I mean, I know it's something we have to consider per the guidelines, but I keep asking myself, why are we looking at an antiquated pathway when that pathway was developed for the needs in the 1800s, maybe early 20th century?
Well, two things. First of all, if you can point to anything in the document that you read, there's still a push to calculus, it would be great to know, because that is absolutely not what we intended in writing it.
But in responding to courses and the course sequence and what the pathways look like, we cannot bias what the state's methods are or the state's recommendations are in this framework. And it's very important that it stays equal without a lean-to or a balance, or even expressing a preference saying, you can do whatever you want, but this is the better way to go. Because I have to explain to the board, if you choose to show that bias, why that bias is there. And because there are 11 individual voices and opinions, not only about math, but about teaching and learning in California on that board, they may not agree with the bias that I'm hearing you expressing right now. So it's very important, as Pam said, and I want to remind you, it's your responsibility and the explicit charge from the board for you all to look at and try to create an explanation about options, and equally present the information and the guidance to districts about the options they have without showing or sharing a bias.
Thank you. I think this decision about how we present different options is very important. And I just want to say I'm concerned that the idea of us saying that a integrated new pathway is a bias, because it conflicts with our directive to consider equity. And when we're putting out these new pathways, we're putting them out because they're pathways that will bring in more students, will give a more equitable future to students in California. We know that the current pathways, particularly the push to calculus, is deeply inequitable and has served to keep out students of color and girls for generations now. And so it's a little bit hard to have the equity mission that we've been given, but also not to say that certain pathways are going to be more equitable for students.